Hello, my name is Teach, and this will be part 8 of understanding the world of Ice and Fire, and this will be all about the Age of Heroes. In the previous videos, we covered the Dawn Age, and I proposed a theory to you that Nissa was violated, and her scream cracked the fiery moon, which rained down all across the world. But this violation caused her to become pregnant, and she gave birth to Garth Greenhands, a godly man who was said to live back in the Dawn Age. Then my theory is that Garth travels through Essos all the way to the great Empire of the Dawn, where he was known as the God on Earth, before being called back to Westeros to sign the pact, which launched the Age of Heroes. So without any further ado, let's get into it.
The Age of Heroes. The Age of Heroes lasted for thousands of years, in which kingdoms rose and fell, noble houses were founded and withered away, and great deeds were accomplished. Yet what we truly know of those ancient days is hardly more than what we know of the Dawn Age. The tales we have now are the work of septons and maesters, writing thousands of years after the fact.
This era takes place between 8 to 10,000 years ago, and we're still going to have to deal with the opinions of septors and maesters.
What is commonly accepted is that the Age of Heroes began with a pact, and extended through the thousands of years in which the first men and the children lived in peace with one another.
It seems the Age of Heroes lasted from anywhere to 2 to 4,000 years.
The names of the kings of these earliest realms are caught up in legend, and the tales that claim their individual rules lasted hundreds of years are to be understood as errors and fantasies introduced by others in later days.
And already Yandel is trying to force his opinion on us. These great rulers were descendant of Garth Greenhand, and very well may have lived hundreds of years, maybe even thousands.
Names such as Brandon the Builder, Garth Greenhand, Lan the Clever, and Duran Godsgrief are names to conjure with, but it is likely that their legends hold less truth than fancy.
I personally believe that Bran the Builder and Garth Greenhand are the same person. Lan the Clever is believed to be a descendant of Garth. And let's see if we can figure out who Duran Godsgrief might be.
And besides the legendary kings and hundreds of kingdoms from which the 7 kingdoms were born, stories of such as Simeon Star-Eyes, Serwyn of the Mirror Shield.
There's the 100 Kingdoms of Yore once again, and we get a couple of interesting character names to keep an eye out for.
Did such heroes once exist? It may be so, but when the singers number Serwyn of the Mirror Shield as one of the king's god, an institution that was only formed during the reign of Aegon the Conqueror.
Who's to say there wasn't a Kingsguard before the Targaryens came to Westeros? Maybe he was a member of the Night's Kingsguard.
If Garth Greenhand ever ruled what he claimed was the Kingdom of the Reach, it is doubtful its writ was anything more than notional, beyond a fortnight's ride from his halls.
Yandel, please. Garth basically ruled the entire world during the Dawn Age. So that ends the chapter of Age of Heroes. But before we move on to each of the 7 kingdoms, let's go back to Essos and finish off the Great Empire of the Dawn. The Great Empire of the Dawn was ruled by the God on Earth, who I believe was Garth Greenhand, and eventually he had to go back to Westeros, but on his way he stopped and he created the 5 forts. But let's see what happened to his descendants after he left.
Dominion over mankind then passed to his elder son, who was known as the Pearl Emperor, and ruled for 1,000 years.
Garth's children may only live 1,000 years. Going forward, we will use 1,000 years as a symbolic identifier for his children.
The Jade Emperor, the Tourmaline Emperor, the Onyx Emperor, the Topaz Emperor, and the Opal Emperor followed in turn, each reigning for centuries. Yet every reign was shorter and more troubled than the one preceding it.
The other emperors were either descendants of the Pearl Emperor and their lives grew shorter and shorter, or they could be children of Garth. If they were children of Garth, the Jade, Tourmaline, and Opal Emperors all must have succeeded in their mission and passed leadership on to the next.
For wild men and baleful beasts pressed at the borders of the great empire. Lesser kings grew prideful and rebellious, and the common people gave themselves over to avarice, envy, lust, murder, incest, gluttony, and sloth.
Who are these wild men and baleful beasts that are pressing against the borders? Why were lesser kings growing prideful and rebellious? Were they upset their blood wasn't being used to make this great new world? The common folks themselves start acting out and gave into incest, trying to purify the bloodlines.
When the daughter of the Opal Emperor succeeded him as the Amethyst Empress, her envious younger brother cast her down and slew her, proclaiming himself the Bloodstone Emperor,
I personally imagine this as the Red Wedding of the Dawn Age. The Bloodstone Emperor organized a giant coup to claim power and probably had his remaining family killed in the process.
Beginning a reign of terror. He practiced dark arts, torture, and necromancy, enslaved his people, took a tiger woman for his bride, feasted on human flesh, and cast down the true gods to worship a black stone that had fallen from the sky. Many scholars count the Bloodstone Emperor as the first high priest of the sinister Church of Starry Wisdom, which persists to this day in many port cities throughout the known world.
Bloodstone Emperor represents all the evil in men. Who was the Tiger Woman? Could this be the God Empress of Lang? Or is it someone else entirely? We'll have to try to figure that out as we go along. As for the Church of Starry Eye Wisdom, I think we can assume they may have a chapter in the port of Old Town.
In the annals of the Further East, it was the blood betrayal, as his usurpation is named, that ushered in the Age of Darkness, called the Long Night. Despairing of the evil that had been unleashed on earth, the Maiden Maid of Light turned her back upon the world, and the Lion of Night came forth in all his wrath to punish the wickedness of men.
Was Nissa Nissa there? It's said that this betrayal ushered in the Age of Darkness known as the Long Night, when the Maiden Maid of Light turned her back on the world. Well, the Maiden Maid of Light, I believe, is Nissa Nissa, and the Lion of Night came forth to punish men and all their wickedness. The Lion of Night must have been the Bloodstone Emperor after he had transformed himself with an obsidian dagger. If Nissa Nissa was there and she pulled a Catelyn Stark and raked her face, she would have looked tigerish. This betrayal upset her so much that she let some of the darkness out. Now the scratches on her face are oozing darkness, and darkness is just oozing out of her skin. Did the Bloodstone Emperor take Nissa Nissa to build his own godly empire?
How long the darkness endured, no man can say. But all agree it was only when a great warrior, known variously as Hercune the Hero, Azar High, Yintar, Nefarian, and Eldric Shadow Chaser,
5 different names for a single hero?
arose to give courage to the race of men and lead the virtuous into battle with his blazing sword, Lightbringer, that the darkness was put to rout, and light and love return once more to the world.
To me, this sounds like Garth had to return from Westeros. When he got there, he raised 4 of his dead children, and together they were able to summon the darkness into more daggers, and now each of them is now holding a dagger in their chest.
Yet the great empire of the dawn was not reborn, for the restored world was a broken place, where every tribe of men went its own way, fearful of all the others, and war and lust and murder endured even to our present day. Or so the men and women of the Further East believe.
Sounds like Garth's children each took their own group of people and started new civilizations. We're going to stop here for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and join me for the next one as we work our way through the 7 kingdoms in the Age of Heroes. If you don't know what else to watch, check out one of these videos linked at the end. Once again, my name is Teach, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!